Welcome to the great podcast, Know It, Live It. Conversations with people who live passion on purpose and purpose with passion. Here's our host, Laura Hanson-Drexel.
Today, we have the opportunity to hear from Paula Johnson, one of the people that I have met just recently. I took a class from her, which was quite a privilege. She was an excellent teacher, a religious class, which isn't always easy to teach because you're gearing people and letting them grow and learn, letting them have their own opinions and takes on things because it's open learning. There isn't just one right answer. You have to be respectful of where people are coming from. And she did it with such a plum and poise and grace. And I really appreciate that. And I was so anxious to have her on this show because she's interested in many things. And what she narrowed it down to is to talk about education, which is perfect because she's also been a teacher of English. And she even never corrected grammar during the class. So I'm also very grateful for that because she would have found errors in almost everything I said. So welcome, Paula Johnson, to Know It, Live It.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for the beautiful introduction. I appreciate that, and I'm grateful to be here today. I know we're going to have a great time.
I think we are too. Now, one of the things I wanted to bring up, first of all, is your work with the Education Initiative in the United States Central area. That is a big area. So tell me about the geographical area and what is the Education Institute?
Okay, the United States Central area goes from the Canadian border to the top of Texas, and from western Idaho through eastern Missouri and Illinois. And the Education Initiative has been set up by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And what they do is that they invite people to serve as specialists or mentors who search for people who are educationally underserved. There are 4 groups that we work with or we focus on. The first one is those who are just coming out of high school. We want to make sure that they have a plan for their future. The second group are those who are probably working 2 or 3 jobs or something just to get by, and they need some help finding education so that they can become more self-reliant and improve their lives. We work with those who already have degrees or are in a job that they are comfortable with, but would like a change, whether that's just a change in their learning environment or whether they're being downsized or whether they just want more education to improve what they're doing. And then that last group is the group who are highly educated but want more education.
So everybody.
Everybody. Pretty much everybody.
Everybody.
And I am, and in that responsibility, I am not in charge of this program, but I am on a team that creates trainings. So I'm a member of the committee that creates the trainings for these, which we do once a month, the first Tuesday night of every month. And I am also a specialist trainer who works with the people, and primarily in Missouri, a little bit in a few in Illinois, some and a few in Colorado right now.
Do you find their needs, regardless of where they live, pretty much the same, or are their needs differently for the locations?
They're pretty much the same. Most of the people who have been called to serve as mentors are finding the same challenges. They find people who are struggling, most teenagers have one of 2 issues. Either they want to get education and they don't know what to do, or they are kind of stuck in family tradition where they haven't ever had the opportunity to go to school and they don't even see that as an option. We have even had people who don't even know what a bachelor's degree is. They don't even know the language of education. And that's heartbreaking. There are many who just are comfortable where they are. They have a lot of welfare services and they don't recognize the great blessing of being self-reliant. But the freedom that gives you. And, So it's very,
Yeah,
very interesting. It's just been
absolutely. There's generational situations. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, when you say education, you're also talking about vocational training as well. It's not all
yes.
university driven.
Nope, we
Okay. I
actually
just
look
want to,
at all 4 tiers. We look at the tiers that for those who have just come out of who maybe didn't even finish their college degree, their high school degree, sorry, and they need a GED. We can help
yeah.
them find that, find the resources they need to do that. We work
Mhm.
with those who need English skills, and there are programs available called English Connect, especially is the one that we put them into. And they are given skills to learn English. It doesn't matter what their background, what their language background is. It's an ELL, an English
Mhm.
language learner program.
Mhm.
And so then we help those first get their English skills and then help them find whatever they're interested in. We work with those who are looking for something that is kind of a pay as you learn, like plumbers, electricians, firefighters, police officers, those that kind of area. We encourage them to look for whatever will work for them. We use AI quite a bit to help
Oh,
them
really?
find.
Tell me about that. How does that work? How
It's
does
great.
AI work? Is it like testing or
No,
interest
no, no.
surveys or what?
I can put in
Tell me.
so okay. So I can put in a prompt that says something like, I have a 35-year-old mother of 3 children who
Uh-huh.
needs an online program which will help her within 2 years be able to add to her family financial support. She's
Wow.
interested in medical, in areas of medical, but she needs to do an online program. And AI will kick, and she lives in this specific area. And AI will give me a list of possible educational areas that she might be interested in doing, like medical transcription or work as a receptionist or a nurse. And it will give me how much she will make in the area where she will live and
Mhm.
schools that are available. And once she makes a decision, then I say, AI, tell me what scholarships are available for this kind of learning in this area. And it will get,
Okay.
and she's interested in these things, and it will give me a list of scholarships.
I'm gonna cut and paste those prompts and put them in the show notes.
Okay, it's great. AI is just such a wonderful resource. The, for instance, one of the things that we did, like last night, we did a training and we
Mhm.
had 5 people come. We're on the second tier up this time. And so we were looking at those who have just associate degree kind of
Mm.
things. And so we had 5 people come and give their
Mhm.
background in like a mini fair, mini
Mhm.
career fair. And we
Mhm.
had a cosmetologist, a pharmacy
Mhm.
tech, a
Mhm.
massage therapist, a dental hygienist, and a funeral director mortician who
Mhm.
spoke for just 5 minutes each and shared what it's like to work in their area and
Mhm.
what things they might be interested in doing. We just try to give information to the
Yeah,
people who are
sure.
working as mentors. We did a whole training on how to use AI.
Wow. Oh, that's so cool. That takes some coordination and some reach out and some good, I would assume, some good promotion skills to get people to spend their time to come talking about their occupation.
Yes. Oh,
And
they
this is online or you're meeting locally with people?
no, this is all online. It's all done on Zoom, but we record those. We
Mhm.
record those trainings. And for your information, I don't know that your audience needs to know that, but all of our trainings have to be approved by the church.
Oh, sure. You have to
It
have
goes
people
through
who, yeah.
to make sure that everything is appropriate, that everything, and so we do that ahead of time. But then everything is done live on Zoom and recorded so that when I get a new trainee, a new mentor, I can then send them out those recordings so that they can get those previous trainings.
Okay, so I'll delete that. So I'm gonna say right now I'm gonna say, well, I'll pick up.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so I like the fact that you have in place
Are you looking for oversight?
No. So you have some sustainability in your program. So as people are replaced in your position, they can pick up where you left off in the training and know who's been used, not been used, but who's come and taught and what topics have been covered. Is that correct?
Yes, that's some of it, but it's also so that when I get a new person that I need to train, I can give them those trainings so that I don't have to go back and teach them all about AI. I can just send them the recording on AI
Yeah.
of that Zoom meeting so that then they can get the training that we did.
Wow. That's just, and so you have just the initiative for the U.S. Central area. Are the similar programs for the Western, Southerns? I mean, is it
Right
everywhere?
now,
Or is this, it's not, is this pilot? What is this?
right now it's a pilot program,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but with that being said, the state of Utah has had that for 2 years. And that's then why this pilot
Mhm.
program, there's a whole story as to
Yeah.
why this program took place, but they will also be starting this on the West Coast.
And what's the point is self-sufficiency.
Yes, teaching.
And what have the results been? What can I ask you numbers? Can I ask you what you've
Yeah,
seen? I mean, it is when I ask about numbers, we're still talking about human beings,
yes.
agency, and so it's kind of hard for me
Hmm.
to gauge how far people take education because they actually have to take and do something with it. So numbers are numbers and schmummers, right? But
Right.
what have you seen that we can tell?
There have been some really terrific stories
Oh yeah.
that have
Yeah.
happened. The most receptive group, un- not surprisingly enough, are those students who are just getting ready to come out of high school.
Oh,
We start working with them when they're 16. We encourage them. There is, there are a couple of surveys that we have them fill out that help them recognize things that they're interested in doing so that we can help them find what they might be interested, places where
mhm,
they are the most
mhm.
comfortable. So that's not surprising because they're pretty much tuned that way already. They're also more comfortable with the technology. And so
Mm,
they jump on and do it more
mhm.
easily. And so that group is responding probably at about a 50 to 60% range from we get a weekly survey back from all of the people who are working with individuals. So we
Uh-huh.
know how many people are being serviced each week, how many are receptive, what the response is, where they need more training, what we can do to help.
Mhm.
So, like I said, that group is the most receptive. The next group that is doing well are young families, young parents who see that they want a better life for their children and they want more sustainability in their career. And so they are more responsive. And then we have a really large group who are working with ELL with that English Connect. But that one, because of its positioning, they have to get through English Connect before they can move into the educational fields anyway.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So that one doesn't really, we don't really see numbers on successes there other than they're participating. When they join English Connect, they stay right with it for the 3 semesters.
Mhm.
And the first one has to be done face to face. They have to go to a location where they can get that. English Connect 2 and English Connect 3 are done on Zoom.
No, you can't learn a language
No,
by book only. I don't. And
can't.
English, as you know, is an incredibly difficult language to learn.
It
Anyone who
is.
learns English, I am just in awe of, because it's my native language, and I certainly don't get it right.
The
It's
nuances,
difficult. I mean,
nuances of
present,
English.
present, and present, the same spelling, same pronunciation, and they're 3 completely different meanings. That alone blows my mind. So
Well,
I can't imagine
you
coming, and
know,
then all the idioms,
yep,
butterflies in my stomach. You love objects. I don't know what other language they have that where you love an object. So it's crazy.
the
Crazy, crazy.
nuances, the the nuances of English are incredibly difficult. Like you said, the multiple meanings of the same word and idioms. You know, other languages don't use idioms.
What?
Other languages do not use
Oh, I
idioms.
thought you said, you know what other languages?
No, other idioms do not use idioms.
Other languages do not use idioms.
They may have little things that are statements that are
Yeah.
specific to their region, but they don't use them like we do.
They're not as poetic.
You'll let it be that. You drive me up the wall. That's so poetic, isn't it?
And all the violence, I want to wring your neck.
Yes.
Let's hit the road. Yeah, there's a lot of violence.
Yeah, we have problems. When I
And then
was
all the words that have letters that we don't say.
Yep.
Those are from the French, I've decided.
Yeah, they are
I
primarily.
always blame the French for those words.
Yeah.
So as I sit in Louisiana in the parish here, why? Let me go back to this English language learning because you taught English in high school.
I did.
So when we talk about English being hard to learn, you know what you're talking about far more than I do. Far more than I do. Why did you teach English in high school? And how many students wanted to be learning English? Was it a favorite class of some students or was it dreaded or what were the feelings about English?
Those are really good questions. I love those. Okay, how did I get into English? Well, that's interesting because my first degree was in business. So, and then I did that for a little while. And one day I went, hey, don't love working where I'm working. But I was working for a friend and I knew I would quit and he would have me back to work in 3 days, full time. And so I said, okay, I've got to do something so that I can't go back to work. So I just figured Idaho State University was close. I'd go to school for a semester and then I'd do something else. Well, when I got there, when you go back after, even if you have a degree, when you go back onto a new campus, you have to take an English class and a math class. So I'm in this English class and my teacher one day, about 3 weeks in, said, stay after class. And she said, what are you doing? We had a whole conversation because I told her I was going to do a degree in counseling and work in school counseling. And she said, well, you have to have a teaching certificate to do that. So you should do English. And I said, I hate English. I don't like to write. I hate all that red ink that comes back on my papers. She said, but you have a skill. And she put me right into it. And in 2 years, I had a degree in English education. My strength is more in tech writings because my brain is a little bit scientific math directed. I will never write the great American novel. I love to read them, but I will never write one. And so I think that made me a good English teacher because kids don't really necessarily need to know how to read. Don't need to have a passion for reading novels. They do have to know how to write.
Yes, you do. I taught English, freshman English for 1 year, and it hit me, freshman's 14 years old, and hit me how many contracts they're going to have to read in the next 10 years. Cars, apartments, leases, all kinds of stuff. And I was a little frustrated because the curriculum doesn't cover that. And I thought it ought to. Because that would be a really great language to learn how to read a contract, know what you're signing. There's a lot of reading that's different than novels, instructions, like I said, contracts. What else other do you have to read in life when you're just young that you can get swindled by that I'm not thinking of right now?
About every contract. You need to read carefully, even when you order something online. Yeah. You need to be able.
Oh, yeah. I agree to on computer programs that you download. Privacy statements.
Right.
Stuff.
There are so many things. You need to be able to read well to pass a driving test.
There you go. There's another one.
Yeah. There are so many things. Okay. So I taught junior high. I taught 8th and 9th graders for 7 years. And then I moved to the high school. And the one thing that I would tell my students was, you need to learn to read hard things so that you can read contracts and instructions. So I'm going to teach you to read Shakespeare. And I'm going to teach you to read high level English classic literature so that you can then translate that into whatever you're reading that may be difficult. And after we would get through reading maybe Julius Caesar, and we had a whole conversation about politics, which was so fun. And I said that sounded sarcastic, but it wasn't, because it really was fun. Then I would give them maybe a page of a contract, and I would separate them out into groups and give different pages of the same contract to different groups, and then have them summarize that and bring it back so that they got that practice.
Very good. I could have used you as an English teacher.
Well, like I said, really my strength was writing, and it's because I see things so in such an organized fashion. And in high school, I had a debate background. And so if you don't bring your evidence, we don't do well. And I never once used a red pencil on anything. You're going to laugh. You have to laugh with me on this one, okay?
Okay, I
always
will.
used green ink. I always used green ink when I wrote on my students' papers. And I would tell them, now, green is on there for two reasons. Things that have grown well are green. And things that we want to grow need to be green, like plants and money. And so I use green to tell you that you're doing well and you're succeeding. And I use green also to tell you this is a place where you can do better.
I love that more than red. Oh, I love that. You took something that you hated and then
Yep.
changed it for your students so they wouldn't
I
hate
did.
those red marks. I didn't like red marks too. But you know what a teacher did to me in high school?
Oh,
This
what?
is trauma. I was shared trauma. And I learned later that he had a tragedy in his life about the same time. So
Oh.
then my compassion went up and my feelings of hardship went down. So I'm kind of saying trauma, but in retrospect, there might have been a lot of things going on with him at the same time, and I might have deserved it. But anyway, he took my paper and crumpled it up and said, I wouldn't throw this away unless I had something against the trash can, and then threw it right in front of everybody. And it might have been that bad, but maybe he could have been a little bit softer about the critique.
How old were you, Laura, when that
High
happened?
school,
My goodness.
junior, I don't know, junior or senior, right in front of everybody.
Sometimes I felt like that. And I'd it's called phone a friend, call one of the English teachers. Have you taught this student? This is what happened. I don't even know where to start. This thing.
Yeah, it
Well,
might have been that bad. I mean,
but
it could
in
have been
my,
deserving, but there
but
might have
Laura,
been some way to say it. But I had learned that he actually had a son that was killed in a military operation about that same time. So when you learn things like that and then you put it together and you're like, oh, teachers are human. They have stuff going on.
they do.
He may not have even wanted to be at school that day, and he's got to show up to work and deal with all these teenagers, and who knows what happened in the class before, and he maybe not wanted to look at this piece of junk that some student turned in that I probably did 5 minutes before it was due and not appreciated his hard work. There's a lot going on.
Well, but
It was
you
so rude to me,
you
but
are
I'm
no
not discouraged from writing. I've not been discouraged from writing, nor did it derail me from going to college.
right. Well, you're incredibly forgiving and compassionate, and that's wonderful to see it that way. I don't think I ever did that. I don't think I ever hurt anybody's feelings intentionally. I
Sure, not
one
intentionally.
the one thing that I do get often, which is kind of strange because I've been retired since 2020. I still have parents, and if I run into a former student, I get messages that say you were my favorite English teacher or you were my favorite teacher. And I hope that I was able to bring that across because in my opinion, kids work harder for someone that they know really cares about them. And if they feel loved and accepted, they will work hard. And so when you ask me, do kids love to take English? No, most kids don't like to take English. They don't. The hard part is that English teachers are responsible for 2/3 of every standardized test.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
Because if you can't write that essay in whatever history or whatever, you're kind of toast.
Yeah.
Never thought of it that way.
So 2/3 of every standardized test is focused
Wow.
on English, either writing or reading correctly and responding. And so I taught test taking skills. I taught deep reading, how to
Mhm.
how to edit, how to get your thoughts on paper is really hard. It's really hard for kids. And so most of them do not love coming to English. If the English teacher isn't one who can connect well with kids, then they're not going to do well. They're not going to do as well. And so I really worked on connecting with kiddos and helping them. Okay, this is another thing about me. I also don't like to do things that I don't know the reason for.
What's your mathematical mind?
I might do them, but I don't love doing them. And so if I explain to you, I need you to read Shakespeare because in the future you're going to read hard contracts. And this will
Mhm.
help you work. What I'm going to teach you will give you skills for this. Then they would respond better. We need to write this kind of a paper because someday you may need to write a paper to a bank manager or some financial
Mhm.
institution requesting a loan for your business or for your home or for a car or something. And so we need to teach you to write well so that you can clearly communicate. We need to put you into groups and have you talk to your other students
Mhm.
so that you learn to communicate verbally. And so,
Mhm.
you know, so I actually found it to be a very fun career. It was fun for me. I love the kids. I love teenagers. I'm weird. I know. People used to say, "You teach junior high? Are you okay? You deserve a medal." And I like them. So now I
That
teach
helps.
adults,
And
and
I'm sure they could sense that you liked them.
I hope so.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did. And you believed in them.
Yes.
You believed they could do hard things. And so that goes on to inspiring them to be diligent learners, to be intentional learners, because they're not going to be intentional if you're not going to be intentional. If you're not going to get their grades back, if you're not going to, they can tell when you put intention and diligence in your lessons.
Mhm.
They can tell if you're just reading off or blowing off or like, oh, well, this is what the district says we have to learn. Or when you're excited about Julius Caesar, when you get into it. So tell me about that. Tell me about how intentional learning has worked in your life and diligent learning. I want to hear some more about what your thoughts are on that.
Okay. I have always loved to learn. I think it's my dad. My father said he couldn't ever remember learning to read. He just knew from the
Mhm.
time he was little. And so, and reading was important with my mom too. And so as a child, I was read to. And so reading was important in my life. But it isn't just that. I loved, I didn't really, I can't say that I loved junior high and high school for the experience. I had really good friends, so I had a good experience that way. I was involved in activities, and that was a good experience.
Mhm.
I learned good things and had good teachers. But to say I would go back to high school, like I have friends who say, "Oh, I go back to high school," and not so much. But I loved college. I loved my collegiate experience all three times and the continuing education that I did. And I just, in general, love to learn. I have a wide variety of interests. I love music and I love art and I love reading, but I also like to know about what makes things grow and what made that rock formation the way it is. Why do the stars look like this tonight? And what kind of clouds are those? And so I think I've just always been inquisitive. But beyond that, I don't sit still very well. And so I'm constantly looking for the next thing I'm going to learn. And so I'm a great audience member. I'm not very well versed in much of anything. Like I have a sweet friend who is just the most amazing cook. She is, she has she has a vision for food. I just hang out with her and then learn how to do things, right?
And eat. And eat.
And eat. Yes, and eat. And she makes, oh my God, she makes the most amazing cannoli. We'll just leave it with that.
Mm.
But I don't know. I love, and because I'm passionate about it, it's easy to share that passion with my own children, with my grandchildren, with people I'm with. I love to go. I'm not as good at talking about things as I am about asking questions. I love
Mm.
to say to somebody, what made you choose that color for that place on
Mm.
that painting? Why, Fran? Why? Fran's my friend that paints. Fran, why did you choose to make that scarf red?
Mm. Mhm.
See, I like that, and I love sociology. I love psychology. So I love anatomy.
Insatiable.
I think so.
Yeah.
I love, but the one thing I will tell you, I am discerning in what I choose. I don't
Mm.
just learn anything. If I choose a podcast because it looks engaging or interesting, and I get 5 minutes into it, and I'm like, this isn't reaching me today. I'll turn it off and go do something else. Learned, I have a friend who is amazing with, she does the most amazingly beautiful quilts, and an aunt who does beautiful handwork. And so I've gone to them and learned how to do quilting and how to do more handwork. And so I just, you know, my kids just have to go along with me with whatever I decide.
Yeah, you take them with.
Well, my kids are really active. And they're
Mhm.
very, when I say active, I mean they snow ski, they snowboard, they water ski, they wakeboard, they ice skate, they swim, they hike, they're busy people because they grew up with me. They also all play the piano.
So I have some questions about two things that you brought up. I have a question about the standards that you have, that you are inquisitive, but you put stops on things. There must be things you might start off being inquisitive, like, I'm not going there, that's too dark, or whatever your standards might be.
Yes.
And then I have a question because you brought up several friends. I have a friend that does this, I have a friend that does that. And I wanted to know, just briefly delve into when or how do you think appreciating other people's talents adds to developing a friendship? Those two questions. Tell me about setting standards, knowing when to stop being inquisitive, and how that leads to kind of how that funnels inquisitiveness or filters it. And tell me about being appreciative of other people's talents, not just bragging, but being appreciative and recognizing talents of others
Mhm.
develops friendships. Can you talk about those two things?
Oh, I love that. Those are great questions. Okay. Um, I have a pretty sensitive heart, and I don't mean physically. I mean when, if, like you say, if I get into something that feels dark, I just don't go there. I like to be really positive and happy. I actually keep a little journal of positive things that I found that have happened in my life each day. Sometimes they're one-liners, sometimes they get extended. Most of the time it's just, this brought me joy today. And so I have a sister who has really bad anxiety. When my sister's anxiety started, we would go for walks. Just being out in nature was good for her. But she is so observant. When I walk fast because it's more of I have 40 minutes and I want to get 3 miles in. I'm kind of like that. But she is a slower walker, but she sees everything. And so she'd say, oh, look, there goes a little rabbit, or look at that plant. And she just taught me to slow down and experience life. In the process, it helped her anxiety as well. Well, Chris and I have been friends since we were, gosh, I don't even remember not being with Chris. She lived next door. She and her mom and my mom were good friends. And I live in Idaho. She lives in California. We talk about once a week or once every 2 weeks, just stay in touch with one another. But this is one of those things that she is a friend that you can ask her a question and she will turn that around on you so fast that you never get to know much about her because she asks questions and you answer her questions. So that friendship has taught me to learn to listen and ask questions, good questions like you ask. But Chris is just the most kind, thoughtful, wonderful woman and supportive through challenging things. And I so appreciate and love her. But we had this little group of friends, and there were 13 of us in high school. And so we would play ball, or we would go to the park in the middle of the night, or we would have sleepovers. And yeah, well, we lived in a pretty safe community. Okay. Besides
All
that,
right.
the police knew our parents. So we had to
Oh,
be good.
well,
So my dad owned a business. Chris's dad owned a business. Marsha's dad owned a business. Carla's dad was the manager of a business. We couldn't get in trouble. We would be in way too much trouble at home. But they were all good students, super good people. And so that, I think, fueled a lot of things. Chris and Carla are both nurses. Marsha's degree is in business, but motivating each other for more education. So then that kind of links me into this. So I'm going to deviate just really quick back to one other thing. So I'm also part of a book club, which has two different groups, a book club and a study club. The study club doesn't read books. The book club reads books. The book club are all English teachers, which makes for fascinating reading and great conversations because nobody talks about the plot. Everybody discusses the writing, which is more interesting to me. The study club is a different group of women. None of my book club friends are part of that, but it's a community group, a community club that has been in place since 1912. And they meet once a month from September through May. They don't meet in the summer. My mother and my grandmother were both members of this club. So I'm a study club roadie, okay, because I got to carry things around and serve refreshments and all of those things that you get to do when your grandmother and your mother are involved. But that group focuses on learning things outside of our normal circle. So some of the things that we've had a former general and his wife come and speak to us. He was at the Pentagon during 9/11. We've had, as far as military is concerned, we had another one of our members whose son-in-law came in and spoke to us, and he worked in the Air Force, and he worked on Air Force One. So that was really interesting learning more about that. We learn about music. We have people come and talk about things as broad as from genealogy to dermatology, to help for older people, how to address concerns about too much use of technology with children. Gosh, I think, let's see, that's tomorrow night. Who's talking tomorrow night? I have to think. Anyway, what a wide variety of content in that group. And those women are all well educated and not necessarily formally educated, but well educated women and very respectful of one another. Lots of culture is involved in there. We've had we have people who come from cultural events in our area who have come and shared things about what they're doing. So like if there's going to be a big art show, they'll come and do a preview. There's a company in West Yellowstone that does plays. They use all students as part of the musicals that they do. And they've been to talk to us about what goes on, how they set up and how their program works. So it's a wide variety of things. It's great. So I do that. So I have friends in both of those groups. But as the older I've gotten, the more I have found a wider variety of friends friends who, like I said, I have one who does beautiful quilts, but she's also a concert pianist. So, and she and my friend who's the artist we get together for lunch once a month and just have the most wonderful discussions. A couple of other people that go to lunch with that group. One of them is, what's Debbie's degree? Just a minute. She was in imaging. She has just an associate degree, but worked as in medical imaging. And the other one doesn't have any school after high school, but she loves to participate in cultural arts. And she also is a very beautiful artist and just a great mom and a wonderful, good friend. And she loves movies. So when I need to go to a movie, I call her and say, hey, do you want to go see this movie? And we go to the movies. She's my movie buddy. We can't take our other friends because they go, what are you watching? Took them to Mission Impossible. Way too much excitement in there for those too.
So appreciating your individual friends' talents, abilities, and likes and dislikes really does contribute to the friendships.
It does.
And you mentioned formal versus informal education and learning. And I think that's very important. I think as someone who has a family of degrees, I'm not sure, well, I am sure actually that a degree is just focused learning with a lot of tests. To me, education is you want to learn, you know how to learn, and you can report what you learn.
Mhm.
That's what it goes down to. The reporting how you learned is the education, formal education part.
Yes.
Wanting to learn and knowing how to learn, that is lifelong learning.
I want to add one thing to that, Laura. Acting upon what you learn.
Thank you.
Yeah. If
Acting.
you don't act on what you've learned, whether that is to keep you from doing something or to encourage you to do something.
Oh, I missed
I
that.
think
So
that's
important. Thank
important.
you. I missed that step. That is an important part of that. And so the only thing that makes it a formal education is really reporting on what you've learned.
Mhm.
And having degrees is important and it looks good. We call it bling in my family. But there are
Yes.
there's certainly jobs that don't need a formal education.
Right.
Jobs that need training, jobs that need apprenticeship, jobs that certainly need more skill. I told my children the way you make money is do something that nobody wants to do or nobody can do. And there are many jobs like that, many, many jobs. And use your talents to your best ability. And that's what that is.
Yeah.
But lifelong learning, wanting to learn, you can do that intentionally and diligently. You can decide you want to learn how an ant works and how they build their homes. And
Mhm.
that doesn't take a degree to do that. It doesn't even take well, it used to take encyclopedias, but now it takes a really good internet connection to get to libraries.
Someone who's inquisitive is fascinated with learning and they want all these things and they embrace everybody else's learning and accept it as their own as well. They're always open to learning. And I don't know if that's true or not.
And you
You're
certainly don't think you're an expert because you're willing to learn more. And I think
right.
those are fun people to be around, don't you?
I do. I do. I'm a precinct committee person. Right. They talked me into doing this was because they said, we need somebody who will do this and share the information that they get with other people. Okay,
Share.
do that.
I can do
So
that. I could share. I'm an educator.
I
Believe in
can, I
education.
don't know that I'm an educator that way, but I can share what I learn.
Then what would you call an educator if it isn't sharing what you learn?
Oh, it is. It is.
Okay.
It is. You're right.
Now, how do we invite others to learn? How do we invite others to diligent and intentional learning now that we've somewhat defined it in a way, but how do we invite others to do the same?
Oh, that is hard because I think that that's a personal choice. I can be enthusiastic and I can be passionate, but it is hard to get other people to choose to do that. I think it's a choice. And I think perhaps our own enthusiasm and positive outcomes from our enthusiasm may be the only thing that's going to draw people to that.
I think so too. I think their own desperation or what they see the reward is. I think your teenagers in that program can see the reward for learning.
That's really true. I think also feeling supported. I think if you feel supported in your opinions, in your need, if you feel a need to learn, if you feel a need to change, and you feel like the person that's mentoring you, I think mentors are so important. I think a really good mentor is so valuable, especially if that mentor is your friend and you feel safe with them. I think that is that's a good way to get people to make that step into more learning. And I think that one thing that we have talked about, Laura, that I think's been really valuable here is that
Please.
not all learning has to come from reading or from books.
Tell
That
me.
learning comes from experiences, and
Mhm.
how you feel in the experience makes a difference. I went with one of my friends I did a couple of things over the holidays that were very focused on music. I went to the Messiah and in New York City with the Philharmonic there, which was amazing experience. And then a few days later, I was back in Idaho and went to hear an opera singer, but everything he sang was Christmas related. And both were just amazing experiences. But as my friend and I were talking about them, we both could see that we had grown um, through the musical experience, through the feeling that came with it. That now, am I ever going to be an opera singer? That is not in my abilities. My mother had a beautiful operatic voice. She let me learn to play the piano because she knew I couldn't sing. So I think a lot of our learning comes from what we feel and how supported we feel in that experience. So when we encourage people to go do things with us, and that expands our friendship. And I love that. I love how you put that. That learning together, that it's kind of a symbiotic experience. We learn about one another, and so we grow closer. And the closer we grow, the more we open up what we learn, and the more that strengthens our relationship. So I know that in working with my grandchildren, I don't work with them, in being with my grandchildren, I'm sure that they have this conversation behind my back, and that's okay because I don't care. But they probably go, oh my gosh, don't you just get tired of grandma always sharing what she's learning? Now, I say that because a few years ago, I was going through I want to learn about this subject. And so I was really learning. And then almost once a week, I was shooting something out to my kids. I would email my kids or send a text. Oh man, you got to learn. This was so awesome to learn. And one of my girls called, my oldest daughter called, just laughing. And she said, I just had the funniest conversation with two of her brothers. And she said, they both are like, Mom is making us crazy with this. We don't have time to do all that. And she's like, what? And they're like, well, she sends us all a connection to all these podcasts or these articles or whatever. I don't have time to do that. And she said, Mom doesn't expect you to do that. She's just excited about what she's doing. And if you have time and you're interested, you're welcome. Promise she won't give you a test.
That's funny.
My grandkids know the same thing now. If grandma sends out a podcast, if grandma sends out an article, they know that it's an invitation, not a requirement.
Yeah, you're just excited to share. I love what you were talking about music. If I can just step back, it reminded me of like learning is like a spark of divinity, and that there's wordless intelligence. That's what
Absolutely.
I was thinking when you were talking about those things. And I think those are certainly as valuable, maybe sometimes more, than being able to report what you've learned.
I love that. It sinks deep. it changes you. I think you're right. I think it changes us. It makes us more compassionate. It helps us to see the world differently. I loved the experience with the Messiah. The man who sang the contralto part gave me such insight into that role. And the conductor, just every little nuance, you could just feel the experience. You didn't even need to know what the story was because you could feel it through the music. She was such an amazing conductor. I think just being out in nature can do that to us as well. I went in September to Jackson, Wyoming with my daughters and a granddaughter. And we went to the top of one of the ski lifts, in Jackson Hole. And just standing on the top of that mountain and looking over that beautiful valley and seeing all of those beautiful God's creations are important and they're beautiful and they can do the same thing. It just strengthens our spirit. But I think that can come through so many things. That can come from a child's inquisitiveness about a rock that they pick up. Look at this pretty rock. And you can see, and then you talk about what does it feel like? Why do you love that rock? I think all of those things are learning and they strengthen us and they help us grow. And as you said, truly.
And whether you know the name of the rock or how old it is or what layer of the Earth's crust, obviously I'm not a geologist.
Nor am I.
You can still appreciate its beauty.
Yes.
And it can still impact you.
Yeah. But you know what? Athletics can do it too, don't you think? Are you very athletic? Do you do anything athletic?
I walk.
Okay. Have you ever skied? Snow skied?
No.
Oh, okay.
Water skied years ago.
Okay. Well, there's a difference. I water ski too. So
it had the word ski in it.
Okay, that works. Okay. So as we were talking about that, I got thinking about this. Okay. So when I was little, my grandfather owned an airplane. And so I would fly with grandpa periodically. And I love the feeling of flying in a private plane, in a little teeny private plane. He had a 5-seater Navy on. Okay. So I would fly with grandpa and that just was awesome. Well, when I was about 11, my neighbor Chris invited me to go skiing. Well, so I went skiing with Chris and I learned how to snow ski. And there is the closest thing I can say to flying without a plane would be skiing. Because it can just fill you with wonder as you feel, it's just a palpable experience that, again, a different kind of learning, but athletics can do that. I know I have a son who is passionate he's a great baseball player and he is passionate about it. And he's in his 40s, but he has used everything in his passion to coach little kids. And he loves coaching. And so I'm like, about everything we do can be uplifting and strengthening if we choose well.
I like to end on that. That is a great thought. Thank you again for visiting with me, Paula Johnson, and I appreciate learning from you today and in your class. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I've had a great visit with you, Laura. You make it so easy. You ask such great questions, and I appreciate it. I hope that it's been helpful. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome.
Know it, live it, feel that magic flow. Conversations rich like a river's timeless glow. Passions on the schedule, purpose in the heart. Join us on this journey and find your own part. Artists, dreamers, makers, and doers. With every episode we'll lift you as movers. From teachers wise to visionaries bold. Learning from the guests never gets old. So Tune in today, be ready to be a fan. We can live our passions and purpose